Socratic seminars are structured to elicit deeper understanding with that writing process. And so just kind of quickly, we'll look at three things. So first, in the Socratic seminar, is preparing for it, right? So the students have discussion questions that will kind of facilitate the conversation, an opportunity to write their claim, cite textual evidence, and in the art of evaluating perspective, anticipate counterclaims. And then we also focus on the skill of historical empathy here. So students have to acknowledge, what is something that gives me a better understanding of that historical context. And then they even have an opportunity to kind of briefly engage with the essential question at the bottom before they begin entering into the Socratic seminar and the writing process. And so this is setting students up for success, right? If we put students into a complex discussion without proper setup, it's a disaster, right? We like students don't talk, they don't feel prepared, but if we give them the tools for success and then give them the opportunity to show that success, it's pretty incredible what we see. I was in a sixth grade classroom just a couple months ago where students were doing this process, analyzing the differences between Confucianism and Taoism. And that was a room full of 11-year-olds debating or wrestling with the merits of or the complexities of each system or each philosophy, and recognizing similarities and differences, and then being able to articulate historical significance. These are ancient philosophies, right? The language, quite honestly, of these primary sources are above my reading level, and yet sixth graders were doing the deep work of conversation, dialogue, and debate in a way that promoted historical thinking. And so we also set teachers up for success. So we pre-create Google Slides teacher presentations for each of these Socratic seminars. So the one I'm opening up right now is for our sedition act unit. And everything's kind of laid out from, setting norms to structures for dialogue, and even the setup of the classroom, the objectives, it's all set up here. And because they're on Google Slides, teachers can edit them as they see fit. But we see the prep, norm setting gives students the opportunity to set norms as well to make that a communal opportunity. And then expectations and examples, these strategies of how we engage in conversation, and then embedded timers into each round. And so this uses a fishbowl technique where you have an inner circle and an outer circle. So the inner circle will answer the questions for rounds 1A and 1B, the outer circle for 2A and 2B. And then the next document I will show is this self-assessment piece. But also we know that students on the outer circle need structure too, right? And so we also have peer assessment where the outer circle will assess their partner through the process. And each of these strategies, it's a simple kind of check yes or no with a justification, all set up for success. There's a scoring at the bottom. And then there's this peer assessment, because dialogue without reflection gets us nowhere. And so this peer assessment allows for students to both reflect on the process and then also reflect on how that process will influence the writing of their essay. And I've had students do this, and they've literally said, going into the seminar, I already had my thesis in my mind, and it was going to be this. After dialoguing with my peers, I'm actually going to argue the exact opposite because I was compelled by the evidence, right? And these are middle schoolers that have said stuff like this. So we have middle schoolers being compelled by evidence to make claims. This is the goal of social studies education, and students are doing it intuitively because of these structures and processes. And so this is all set up for that process. And so the last thing